All right, DMD family, welcome back to another Discs MD video. And today we're talking about, what are we talking about? I'll get through my notes here. Thought I wrote it down here. Did anybody see where I wrote down the, I'll just go ahead and roll the intro and I'll find it. What? Oh, right. Today we're talking about time. All right, everybody, a couple things before we get started. If you can do me a favor, if you haven't already, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell right next to it. Hit the like if you like this content. Go ahead and comment below. I answer as many as I can. Right now, I'm answering pretty much all of them. So go ahead and comment. Also, share this with your friends. I want to grow the channel. With that, once we hit 500 subscribers, wow, the sun just came out. Sorry, I'm hoping I'm not blinding you. Once we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway. So tell all your friends, come on over to the channel and subscribe, because when we hit 500, I just put a first run Zone OS on order. And when we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to do a giveaway and give away that Zone OS. So I've been really struggling with what to focus on in this video. This is, again, the Improving My Game series. I've been through Arm Path last week. I went over Coil being the core of your power, right? Pun intended. I love dad jokes. I'm sorry, I'm a dad. And then I saw an article from dgpt.com on Albert Tamm, or Tamm. Is it Tom or Tamm? Correct my pronunciation in the comments below. We'll call him AT. An interview with AT about his 710-foot drive in the distance championships. And he had this to say. At first, keep the tempo slow on the drives and work on timing. If you have figured out what is your key to power, then start adding speed. So, if coil is the core of your power, then timing is the key to unlock that power. And I interpret AT's quote as, we each need to figure out that piece of our timing that triggers the most power in our form. There is a timing mechanism to our form that turns the potential energy of our bodies into kinetic energy, transferring it to the disc to propel it away from our bodies. That's physics, and I don't know a whole lot of physics, but I know potential and kinetic energy. So what is potential and kinetic energy? Potential energy is the energy held by an object because of its relative position to other objects, or because of stresses within itself, or because of an electric charge, or other factors, right? So translate that into disc golf speak. Our potential energy is energy held by our bodies relative to the stresses within it, right? So our coil becomes our potential energy. What we have to figure out as individuals is how to transfer that potential energy into our kinetic energy. And what is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is the energy of a body or an object because of its motion. That's simple, right? The energy that an object or a body has because of its motion. So how do we translate potential energy into kinetic energy? Force. You have to apply force. And our timing is all about how we apply that force to translate potential into kinetic energy. Scott Stokley did a fantastic video on this. I'll try to link it in the comments below. I hope I can find it again. When he talked about snap, right? The snap of the disc and what you need to generate snap. And he described the backhand disc golf throw as a whip snap, and your timing being the processes of that whip snap. And I agree with him 100%. So that whip cracking is our force that we apply to generate our power. And when does it begin? So if you watch Scott Stokley's video, and I think Dylan over at Iceberg talks about this a little bit. I know Janne talks about it at DG Spin Doctor at length in a couple of his videos. Josh over at Overthrow, it's the same thing. It's when that final plant foot hits the ground. That's the beginning of our force that we apply to turn our potential energy into kinetic energy. It begins with the plant. And there is a specific process that has to follow in order to apply that force effectively, most effectively, which tells me that everything before that plant is really subjective and personal. And this is supported by the fact that if you go back, and last video I talked about this, if you go back and watch those slow motion videos from the European Open in 2022, again, I watched 8 different pros, and their run up and their backswing and the way they're holding their disc and the way they initiate their X step, it's all different. Right? It's 8 different ways, right? You have Calvin Heimberg, who doesn't really reach back in his backswing all the way, right? His arm stays relatively bent, and he's coiling in his X step, right? So go back and watch Calvin Heimberg. It's interesting. Janne brought this point up. He's turning his hips to coil as he's X stepping, right? And then on the other extreme of that, you have Paul Macbeth, who extends his arm fully, but his coiling doesn't happen till closer to his plant, right? So everything before the plant, I feel is subjective and relative to our comforts and how our bodies work. But once that foot hits the ground, all 8 of those people are the same. And I think they need to be. I think the timing of what happens after that plant is the key to how we convert our coil into power. So first is the plant. And this is our brace, right? Let me get back here, right? We need to drive, we need to brace, we need to drive our foot into the ground and stop our momentum with our plant foot. If you think about pretty much every other sport, whether it's baseball pitching, softball pitching, baseball throwing, tennis, hockey, whenever they go into their motion, what's the first thing that they do? They hit the ground with their foot. And then they use that to generate torque, right? And do a little experiment. You may be able to do it where you are if you have enough room. If not, stop the video and go outside. Take your chair with you. Sit down in your chair, lift your feet off the ground, and try to throw a disc. And see how much power you can get behind that disc. Not much. Now, keep sitting in that chair, put your feet on the ground, and then throw the disc. You feel a little more power in that? Now, stand up from the chair and lean into your foot and throw the disc. You need support in order to generate torque, in order to generate power in your rotation. And it all starts with the plant step. That's the first in the process of our timing. Everything before that I think is subjective. When that plant hits and we brace, then it's on. So what happens after the brace? We generate that power into the ground through our foot. Our momentum is stopped. We're bracing against it to enable our bodies to torque around. The next thing that fires is our hips, right? Remember we talked in the last video of turning those hips and then rotating the shoulders and coiling up and then releasing it. The first thing that should be released is our hips. Go to the link that I linked in this description below. Actually, I'll bring it up as I'm talking. There's a picture on there of AT in his release, right? So I'll bring up the picture. You'll see his front foot is planted into the ground. It's the picture on your left. His front foot is planted in your ground. Notice all of his weight is on that front foot now in that left-hand picture. His back foot is almost up in the air already. And where is his body in relation to his plant foot? Do you see his hips are turned a little more slightly forward than his shoulders, and his disc is a little back from his front shoulder still? That's the timing. The timing is plant, hips, shoulders, elbow, wrist, disc release, right? And I'll come back from that picture and I'll show you what I mean. It's plant, hips, shoulder, elbow, wrist, disc release. That's the timing. And that's what we need to become more efficient at if we're going to maximize our power potential. That's what I'm going to be working on over the next months, guys, months. Now, that's the other part of AT's quote. Take it slow, right? I am an impatient person. I'll tell that to you straight up. I'm an impatient person, and I want this to happen overnight. And I'll be honest with you, over the past three videos that I've done with you, I've wanted all those things to take immediate effect and make me a superstar overnight. And it's not going to happen. We cannot have that mindset. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And this is going to take a lot of time. Whether I like it or not, it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take years. I don't see any way around that. It's going to take years to perfect this. I mean, the pros that we're watching on TV, they've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. There's a reason they're as good as they are, because they've been doing it for a very, very long time. There's very few of them that can just step into it and be good instantly, right? You have your freaks of nature, yes, but most of them, they've been playing since they were little, right? Or they've been playing it for at least a decade or two. So it's going to take years for me to perfect this. And I'm willing and dedicated to do it. So moving forward, timing is something that I'm going to be incorporating into my practice sessions, getting my timing right. And I'll work on progressions of doing it from standstill to then getting to a walk up. I was watching the Champions Cup. I'm in the second round right now. I didn't watch it live. I always watch the replays of it. Nicolas Antilla. Do you guys see how slow he walks up when he throws off the tee? And do you see the amount of power that he generates from that slow walk up? The walk up isn't the key. The power is in the plant and the timing after the plant. I'm convinced of it. So that's where my focus is going to be. So as we go along this journey, let's work on it and learn it together and see how to become more efficient at it and perfect our timing. So hopefully next week, it's not going to be as much informational or talking. It's going to be me doing stuff, coming up with drills and teaching my body how to get it into that timing and taking it slow and walking through it. So hopefully you'll come along with me and follow me through this journey. And hopefully what I'm learning, I can translate to you and it can help you in your game as well. So until next time, enjoy the journey.